Alrighty guys, it is Qua Man here today, and I'm bringing you another Q&A, and this is going to be a very special Q&A. I actually have a special guest coming on later on in the other portion of this video, because I actually did a bigger Walking Dead video with one of my favorite YouTubers, Trevschan2. And in it, we discussed several questions, about The Walking Dead, our thoughts on it, and stuff like that. But I thought it would be fair to you guys if I managed to answer a lot of the Dragon Ball related questions first, before we actually get into a lot of the stuff that I discussed in terms of the Walking Dead portion. So without wasting any more time, I'm going to answer the first batch of questions here just to spice it up a bit and to get you guys your questions answered. And I'm going to start from the top this time. Next time I'll come from the bottom. So let's get started. So the first question of the day is aisle, middle, or window seat? Well, I would have to go with the window seat. I always thought it's the most, interesting experience. I'm a little bit of a taller guy. I'm not super tall, but I'm about 6 feet tall. So I personally don't like being in the middle because I feel more crammed. The window seat, you feel a little bit more isolated, and the aisle seat is kind of weird because people are always walking by. And the window seat obviously has the best view, so I'm gonna have to go with the window seat. Do you think Dragon Ball Super reviews are oversaturated? Interesting question. I think they are, and I'm only saying this because I've noticed somewhat of a trend with Dragon Ball Super reviews. The bigger Dragon Ball YouTubers tend to get the most views. Most people, but there's a lot of people doing Dragon Ball Super reviews that don't even have like thousands and thousands of subs. Like, it's something that a lot of just general anime fans are doing. It's not like, for example, like if I do like a what if discussion or a thought for talk, or if I do a Dragon Ball Q or something like that, any discussion that I bring on my channel, Qua Man talks even, that's something that I do specifically from my channel relating to Dragon Ball. But for Dragon Ball Super reviews, I do them and everybody else does them, and honestly, I think they're okay. I mean, Trevschan2, who you're about to see in a bit, he actually, did some Dragon Ball Super reviews himself. So honestly, I think they're oversaturated, and it's fun, but at some point I can kind of see from the viewer's perspective, like, okay, am I gonna watch Zeon? Am I gonna watch Qua Man? Am I gonna watch Rhymestyle? Am I gonna watch Josh? It gets oversaturated, and really, honestly, the bigger channels really benefit from it, because honestly, on YouTube, if you want to succeed, do content that helps you stand out. I'm doing this mostly because my fans really, want me to do it, and because honestly, I look forward to doing a in-depth review of the series. So those are my thoughts on Dragon Ball Super reviews being oversaturated. How did you get the name Qua Man? Well, Geekdom has hoarded out my name, more than, Lisa Ann, Gianna Michaels, Lacey Duval, any of these people. And I know what you guys are probably thinking in the comment section. What? Qua Man just said what I heard him say? Yes, you heard me say those names. Yes, he's hoarded my name out more than anybody else. But basically, the QAA in Qua Man stands for my full name. Go back to any video from probably 2013 and you'll find out exactly what it says in it. So that's basically what the QAA stands for, and the man is just to add like a superhero effect to my name. Funny little quick fact, I'll just leave you on with this, guys. The name Qua Man is actually not supposed to be pronounced. It was supposed to be QAA Man. That's how I originally envisioned the word. It was never supposed to be pronounced like Qua or Qua Man. That's why people like to put the U in my name, but it's not supposed to be pronounced at all. Like, it's supposed to be QAA Man, but the reason I call myself Qua Man is because, number one, it's significantly easier to say Qua Man instead of QAA Man, and because of the fact that you guys kind of forced me into doing it, because of the fact that when you look at my name at a first glance, your natural instinct is to try and pronounce it, and I thought Qua Man sounds better than Qaaman. So that's basically the whole origin of my name. I don't think it's the greatest name in the world, but I mean, at this point, I kind of have to keep it, right? Who's the bigger bitch, Chi Chi or Bulma? Well, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to go with Chi Chi, but I think it's a different circumstance, because, I mean, it's not fair, because think about it. Bulma is already, like, Chi Chi wants her son to be rich and successful, and to be a good scholar. Bulma's already ridiculously rich and super successful, and Trunks' natural intelligence is going to be more so than Gohan's. And I'll give you a perfect example of what I mean. Gohan studied a lot during his life. Trunks, if you just look at a lot of the things he did, and GT explains this more in depth, he's just naturally intelligent. Like, he has like a natural affinity for operating gadgets and, you know, monitoring ships, because he's the son of Bulma and he's naturally around technology. So he has a natural knowledge that Gohan had to study a lot to acquire. So I'm gonna have to say Chi Chi, by nature, she had to be more of a, you know, a strict mother, because, you know, think about it. And not to mention, I mean, her son was captured when he was a toddler. So, I mean, man, I'm gonna have to go with Chi Chi. But I can understand why she is. Mercenary Tao versus Babidi. Well, I'm gonna have to go with Babidi strictly due to magic. I mean, it's implied Babidi's not that strong, but I mean, his magic would probably give him an advantage in my opinion. Who do you think is stronger, Hercule or Batman? I'm gonna have to go, well, I don't know Batman as much as others, but from what I have seen of him and from what Duct Tape's told me, Batman would probably win, because of his ability to adapt to situations, his gadgets, and because of the fact that he's a master of so many martial arts. But Hercule is pretty strong. But, I mean, man, like, Batman has so much experience fighting, and, I mean, man, like, all those gadgets he has, I mean, if you're factoring that in, yeah. If you're just going hand-to-hand, fight, punch to kick, oh, man, I'm still probably gonna have to go with Batman. I don't know why. There's just something about Batman that just makes me feel like he'd beat Hercule in a fight. I don't know what it is, guys. I wish I could have given you a better in-depth answer, but I don't know comics as well. But it's just an internal feeling that's just making me root for Batman here. I don't know why. Favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card? Interplanetary Purpley Thorny Dragon. I'm gonna say that again. Interplanetary Purpley Thorny Dragon. Duct Tape, if he watches this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was a card that you really used to make my Apocalypse deck really dominate back in its heyday. It was probably one of my most clutch cards. It would come out, you know, whenever one of my cards was destroyed, and the whole point of my deck was to have a card destroyed to bring him out. So he was one of my most useful cards. Favorite Pokemon video game? Definitely, I always like those middle tier Pokemon games. The first one would have to be Crystal. I mean, if we're just saying Pokemon in general, or if we're just talking the versions, Pokemon Crystal is my favorite of all time, no question about it. I mean, that was the most revolutionary Pokemon game in certain areas, although the third generation did more. I'd say Crystal, Emerald, and Yellow were my favorite version games. Platinum was okay, and I didn't play the others. In terms of just entertainment, I really liked Pokemon Coliseum a lot, because it was a very interesting concept. And I also like Pokemon Stadium. Yeah, Pokemon Stadium was awesome. So I just basically gave you my top 5. And an honorable mention to Pokemon Snap. That game was pretty fun too. Do you think you were the best Dragon Ball Z YouTuber? That's a very subjective question. I'm gonna say, when you talk about best, what are you talking about? Like, are you saying if I make the best videos? Are you saying I'm the most knowledgeable about Dragon Ball? Are you saying I'm the most entertaining to watch? Are you saying I'm the most successful? Because that can mean a variety of different things. Now, and I'll just go into this real quickly, and I'm not going to judge myself because I don't want to sound, you know, like it's just not fair when I'm judging myself. But in terms of knowledge, I'd say Geekdom is the most knowledgeable. And I'm openly stating this. He's the most knowledgeable Dragon Ball YouTuber. It's not even close. I mean, I think I'm very knowledgeable of the series, and I don't think I'm being cocky in saying that. I just think that I've watched the series for so long. I've read the manga, I've read the anime, I've seen most of the series in Japanese as of this point now. You know, whenever I have some time, and, you know, I do my research, so I think I'm pretty knowledgeable, but, I mean, Geekdom's knowledge is way ahead of everybody else's. So, in terms of knowledge, I would say out of every Dragon Ball YouTuber who has at least 5,000 subs, I would say I'm at least top 5. Even if you include those, and I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to put a contest up in this video. Out of every Dragon Ball YouTuber, period, regardless of how many subs they have or not, I think I'd still be And this is gonna sound egotistical. I think I'd still be top 5 in knowledge, but I'm not gonna say who I think has more knowledge than me, and I'm not gonna say who I think has less knowledge than me. But I would still think I'm top 5, and that's all I'm gonna say there. But in terms of being the best all around, I think man, that's tough, man. I want you guys to answer that question for me, because if I answer that, that's gonna make me really look conceited, and I don't want to sound that way in a video. Geekdom's the most knowledgeable, Rhymestyle's the most successful. In terms of making videos, I would say I have a particular taste you need to watch them. Geekdom's more informative, I'm more theoretical, Expert Games is more, you know, creative. So, I don't know, man. This is a tough question. You guys say in the comment section below, and let's not go with that whole Watch Mojo thing, because that thing was bogus. The fact that, you know, Team 4-Star barely has more views than me and Geekdom, and that makes no sense, because Team 4-Star has like 7 to 18 times the size of my channel. It was stupid. So that Watch Mojo thing was bogus. And not to mention, the people who were mostly voting for that Watch Mojo thing were mostly our fans, so of course they're going to be biased to us. You know, if Team 4-Star, if you asked every Dragon Ball fan on Earth to say it, most of us wouldn't even know who we are when they would just vote Team 4-Star by default. So honestly, guys, this is a question for you fans. I think I'm pretty knowledgeable of the series, and I think I definitely was one of the original Dragon Ball YouTubers, and I did start a lot of this whole movement towards it alongside Rhymestyle. But in terms of saying who's the best, I'm going to leave that up to you. Why are you and Dragon Ball Nation always fighting? We're not always fighting. It's just that, you know, we just play around and people take us seriously. He's a good friend of mine, guys. I have nothing against him, but he does act a little immature at times, but he's a good friend of mine. He's like a little brother to me, even though I'm not that much older than him. Do you think Ginyu was in his original form? This is a good question. I made a video in my super review. Actually, it was in my super review. I stated this. I've always had one quick thought on this, and I'm going to take this and the next question, and that's it. I've always been a believer that Captain Ginyu must not have been in his original form, and there are some inconsistencies with this. I'm probably going to make this my featured question. Or I might even pick that Chi Chi Bulma one, you never know. But I think that Captain Ginyu must not have been in his original form, and here's the reason why I'm saying this, and I'm not basing this on Super. Here's my reasoning, guys. I know this is going to sound cheap, but I've always been a believer, and it's the simplest thing in the world. How do you practice a body change technique? And the way I look at it is this. When Captain Ginyu used his body change technique against Goku, and you're saying, was he in his original form, meaning that purple, you know, form with the horns? That's what I'm thinking about when you're saying Ginyu. How do you switch bodies with somebody and have such a mastery of the technique if you haven't practiced it before? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, it's never stated who was the guy, and there have been some unofficial forums that have said that he was, like, you know, in the Dragon Ball Daisetsu video game was talking about how, like, you know, he switched bodies with the richest kid in class, and I mentioned that in my Who's the Real Captain Ginyu video. Densetsu, it was a video game, you know, backstory, but it was interesting stuff. You know, I would say that Ginyu definitely wouldn't be in his original body because of that reason, and because of the mastery that he showed with it. Like, you have to practice and improve a technique like that. Like, you don't just naturally learn a body change technique. You have to master that technique, period. And obviously, Ginyu probably found an alien that was really strong, swapped bodies with him, and took it over. So we don't know what his original form was, but I'm definitely going to have to say that Ginyu definitely was not in his original body form because of those two main reasons that I said. And also because, I mean, what history and lore would be behind his actual character had he not used it before, you know? So that's honestly my reasoning on the whole thing. I definitely don't think Ginyu is in his original body. I'm going to really contemplate what's going to be my feature question here now. Can you do an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression? I dedicate this to Harold and Mike from Laughingstock Media. You are one ugly motherfucker. Get to the chopper! I can't do it, guys. You know, Harold does a much better Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation than I do. I hope he actually watches this, but, you know, Harold could give you a good, you're one ugly motherfucker, and I'll be back. Those are probably like the big Arnold movies, Predator, and definitely Terminator. I also really like Twins, too. Alright, so that's going to conclude my, you know, Ask FM portion of this. I didn't do Twitter this week, but I'm going to go on to my Walking Dead portion that I did with Trevschan. Alrighty, guys, it is Qua Man here today, bringing you a very interesting part of my Q&A session today. And in this Q&A session, I am joined by the one and only...
Trev from Trevschan2. Oh, I guess I should say my intro. All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you...
Yes, guys, and for those of you who don't know, this is probably the biggest honor I've ever had. Trevschan2, and I'm not trying to just completely prop him up here. Geekdom would use other words, but he is actually my favorite YouTuber. I've been following this guy for years. He has a simple and effective, you know, method of making videos, and he's very, 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 like, you know, he goes really in depth about a lot of his topics, and he's inspired me to do a lot of the things that I've done with my Dragon Ball discussions, and it's an honor to have you on this Q&A today, Trev, and let's answer some Walking Dead questions, you know? Alright, so let's take the first one from Jimmy Lasig, which says, is Carol too far gone? People, you included, talk about how Morgan should have killed the wolf, but is Morgan really wrong in keeping one as a prisoner? History told us that having an asset that can provide valuable information is worth more than just killing all enemies. The wolf might tell them about their whereabouts, intentions, and so on, so I think that it would be foolish to kill the wolf even instantly. Part of a society are rules. Rick executed Peter with the permission of Deanna, unlike Carol, who just wants to see the wolf dead. Has Carol really the right to kill the wolf on her own? Would Rick really appreciate this? This is a lot of questions from Jimmy Lasig, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I do think it is a good question, because that is true that the wolf that they had captured, the alpha wolf, he would have some info, and if there's any remaining members of his group out there, which there could still be, we still don't know if there are or not. We'll have to see that in the second half of season 6. So that is true that he would be good as a information resource. But I just think to have a loose end like that when you've got the wall, you know, broken down and all these zombies inside, you know, it's just too much of a loose end. And as we're seeing now, you know, of course, he's been able to take advantage, and he's going to escape, it looks like.
I mean, on the topic of, like, Carol, you know, to sum of this up, I think that Carol is too far gone, but I think most characters are too far gone. I mean, you know, in my opinion, I've always looked at Hercule and, you know, Dale as the two characters that kept, you know, a lot of the sanity together, and I think a lot of these guys have gone through so much that I basically think Carol has been put in a situation where she's like, kill or not to be killed, and, you know, this obviously, you know, dates back to the beginning of The Walking Dead with her husband being very abusive to where she is now, and I think that, you know, definitely, you know, helped their transformation. Ed helped Carol become a Super Saiyan.
Become a Super Saiyan.
Or a Superwoman.
Awesome, man. I like that. Yeah, no, that's legit, man. I like that. That's funny. Yeah, that's true. I guess you're right that Ed put her through some shit, so she, you know, she was able to kind of change, you know, really, really quickly, maybe quicker than a lot of the other characters have been able to. But I do agree with you. I think she is too far gone in that way. I don't think she'd be able to change now. She could maybe learn a little bit of, you know, just like maybe a little bit of humanity, but I don't think there's going to be much. So, yeah.
All right.
Cool, man.
All right, let's see. If you were a member of a fully operational Alexandria safe zone, what job would you most like to do, and what job do you think you would be best at, and who would you most like to work with? Well,
that's a good question.
What would you like to do, Trev?
What do you think? Oh, I don't even know. I mean, this one's from Martin Peru, right? So it's a good question from Martin, man. Geez, so what job? Okay, so first of all, what job would we most likely to do? So what jobs? It's kind of like, what have we seen them do so far? You know, you've got your building crew, you've got your people that kind of just keep everything together, keep the community sort of people
the scavengers,
feeling good. And Yeah, you've got your scavengers. You got people like Daryl that kind of go out and try to find, other new people or just kind of scout. Oh man, that's tough. I think I'd probably be somebody that would still like to go out, and I guess scout around and just kind of see what's like, just to be careful and just checking around all the time, like almost like a lookout, but as somebody who's just kind of going around and patrolling the perimeter, just to make sure that there's nothing crazy going on nearby, there's no groups coming in, and just being really careful, so incidents like what we've seen with the wolves, maybe you can see something first, or just kind of be there to maybe prevent that. So maybe like a scouter. What do you think?
Me personally, I know this sounds, a little bit cowardice, but I would probably want to be a sniper in like a tower far, far away from like the walkers. Unless, obviously if the tower falls, I'm screwed. But like, I don't really want to be, close to walkers. I definitely don't think I'd want to be a scavenger, but if I had no choice, I would do it. I'd like to be one of the people protecting the community instead of going out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's smart, because the people who go
They're
out,
the ones that get killed.
Bad time. Yeah, they have a pretty bad time. So that's good too, and that's important too, because if you don't have a lookout, then someone attacks you. Like as we saw with was it Spencer, he kills the wolf that's driving the truck, right? And he's able to stop him from just slamming through the gates right off the bat, which they may have lost if that happened.
I mean, honestly, Trev, I think an analogy that we can use is like a military analogy. Like the soldiers who go into other countries are in a significantly more dangerous situation than those who are defending our borders, because we don't really get as much attacks. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. You're exactly right. Those who go out, yeah, that's true even in the real world. So for sure, yeah, definitely. And then the next one is next part of this question is what job do you think you'd be best at?
Me, I think I'd probably be somebody, obviously the skills that I'm studying in finance and communication, I don't think that's very helpful in a zombie apocalypse. Maybe communication, I could be an entertainer for the people, but personally, I think, I could be a person who could learn to shoot well and protect people from the inside and, provide moral, courage towards the people.
No, for sure, yeah. Keep everybody kind of feeling good and positive. It's obviously important as you have characters committing suicide and stuff like that. So that's true. That would be. For me, like, what do I think I'd be best at? Probably like defense. I think as like you were saying, I think I have kind of a pretty tactical mind. So I think in terms of defense and, like I said, scouting around, just making sure that there's nobody attacking, that kind of thing, and maybe setting up some systems or things around the community to maybe to kind of alert or, do something of the sort like that. I know that's kind of general, but that's what I think I'd probably do. So, and then that last part was who would you most like to work with, right? So.
Well, if we're talking Walking Dead characters, I think, he's kind of weak, so I wouldn't want to work with Father Gabriel. I would probably want to work with a person like Daryl. And the reason I'm saying this is, although Daryl, has obviously gone through a lot, I feel like he's a good fighter. I think he could watch my six, and I think, he has instincts. He's not a person who's rash like Abraham, for example. Abraham's a good fighter, but he's more brash. I think a person like Daryl also seems to get along with people to some degree, unlike, in season 1 where, he wasn't very happy about what they did to Merle. So I think Daryl would probably be the person I'd want to work with most, and Glenn also seems pretty down to earth as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good call. For me, I'd probably, I think Daryl's a good choice. Of course, Maggie's always there, right? So.
Would you?
No explanation necessary.
Trev, would you ever want to work with Rick? Because ironically, we ignored him, and he's the protagonist.
Yeah, that's true. With Rick, I think so. But, I'm kind of I'm a little fighty. People might probably don't know that. But he might end up killing me like Shane or something if I disagree with him too much, if I'm too disagreeable. So that's kind of me. Why I would like to, but he might end up killing me.
I definitely wouldn't want to. Rick seems like he's a little too far gone. But, Shane, I definitely wouldn't want to work with him. He might shoot me in the leg and leave me to walkers.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that's true. I guess it depends on the character. Rick, yeah, I mean Rick, not too bad. I guess.
Rest in
So,
peace, Otis.
yeah.
Anyway, anyways, the next question is, hey Trev and Qaaman, is it just me or is the season moving far too slow at the minute? I feel this half season has only covered a day or two, but no more. It would be nice if they picked up the pace for a while. Also, why didn't they just block the big gap with the fence with Denise? Oh my goodness. Cheers, Rob from Northern Ireland. Big cheese. What do you say, Trev?
Nice. that's I like the way you phrase this question, especially with the Denise part. That's kind of brutal. I don't know. I mean, has it been moving too slow? I mean, there was a couple episodes there. I think if you look at Now, that was a little bit of a slower episode. The Morgan flashback, I really don't think that needed to be an extended episode to 90 minutes. And aside from that, though, I think Thank You was really well paced. JSS was crazy paced. The premiere was pretty well paced. So I think it's had a pretty good mix back and forth. You're always going to get that, I think, when they're doing like eight episodes each half. So I think it's been pretty good, but maybe season 5 was a little bit faster paced. Season 3 probably was.
I personally really liked the Morgan episode. What was the name of the one with Daryl and Dwight? What was that one called? Always accountable. I thought that was a solid episode, although not great. But there were like episode 7, in my opinion, was weak, and Now was also very weak too, because I just felt like they're just spending time in like the safe zone, just talking, nothing's happening, and I felt that really wasn't very interesting. I mean, although we saw that Glenn wasn't Walker food. After, I felt the most exciting part of episode 7 took place in like the first 5 minutes, and then after that it was just all downhill. The excitement wasn't kept up. So I would say it's slowed down, but I think that similar to Dragon Ball, and recently I just uploaded a Dragon Ball filler episode, they're just saving it for obviously future use.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean exactly, and you're right. That's true about there's a heads up episode 7 where they Glenn's at the beginning, and it was a great intro. And then the rest of the episode wasn't quite as... It couldn't keep that up. Once it had that big reveal, then it kind of died out a little bit afterwards. So, yeah, good call.
All right, let's see. Do we know that the wolf is the lead wolf, or is he just another member and takes Denise back to the real land wolf and the rest of the wolves after what happened between Denise and Terra? I feel like Terra and Rosita will follow him back to the group to save Denise by Fight Night 0. Well, I think this is interesting, Trev, because in my opinion, I think that it would just be too easy for all the wolves to have just been killed. And I think that if that alpha wolf is going to survive, it would just be really weird for the plot if he's by himself. So I have a sneak suspicion that he has some hideout or something somewhere where he could communicate, because I just can't see every single wolf. I mean, I do understand this is an irrational world, Trev, but think about it from a military standpoint. Would you send virtually all of your troops to attack and possibly fail at once? No. Now, although it was a really coordinated, attack, and, Trev and I are going to do a video in the future about a certain character who might be related, but I felt that attack was very well coordinated, and I just don't think they would just waste all of their troops, because, I mean, if you think about it, it was so well coordinated that all of Alexandria's best fighters, Rick, all of them, Abraham, Sasha, all of the best fighters, Michonne, they were ironically out, so they chose the time to attack when they were at their weakest. And I feel that with all that said, I have to think that the wolves still exist, and I just think that for plot purposes, it would just make sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really insightful for sure. I agree with you 100%. I think that's a great way to put it, that you probably logically wouldn't use absolutely everybody in one full-scale assault, all, just kind of, it was well timed, like you said, when the others were gone. But I do think you're right. There's got to be more out there. There just has to be. But like you said, also, it is just a show. So, or a comic book series, depending on which one you're talking about. So that's true that, yeah, it makes sense that there would be, and I guess we'll just have to see in the second half how it goes. But I've been kind of back and forth on this one. Like, for a while, I was sure there was more out there. We haven't seen them yet, but that could just mean they're saving them for a little bit later on. I mean, one
thing I'll say really quickly, Trev, is when Rick was in that RV, and I actually had to watch the scene again because it was really quick when he shot all of those wolves. if I go back and look at it, I'm not 100% sure if all of them were killed or were some just injured, because it seemed like kind of a brash attack for him to just shoot him, and the scene went really quick, and you know how when a scene goes quick in The Walking Dead, maybe they're saving it up, and maybe one was hurt and they could come back. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. The only thing is that there was the noise brought in so many walkers. If one
they'd
was
be
injured,
devoured.
I don't think they'd be able to get away, yeah. Because it seems like Rick, they didn't show it to us in the episode, but it seems like he just ditched the RV and just ran because he wasn't able to get the damn thing to start. So, but I know exactly what you mean, too. I was wondering, too, if he had killed them all right off the bat, because he shot through the side of the RV rather than, like it's not 100% sure for sure that they're all dead, but... yeah, it seems to me like they probably, those ones anyway, wouldn't get out. But it's possible that you could have a leader back that kind of sent in the Alpha Wolf who's there now, who's going to try to escape, as kind of one of his guys to lead an attack, but that there's some other, big bad, so to speak, there still as part of their group. So,
all right. Let's see. What do you think will happen in terms of Rick and the whole Carol and Morgan situation? Which side do you think he will be on, and which side, what do you think he will say thank you? I think that, Rick would easily side with Carol for two reasons. Number one, Carol has virtually saved the entire group's life before. If you also look at the fact she has been with the group longer, and at the third reason is, let's think about it. I mean, Morgan is putting them in significant danger, and although Rick technically knew him longer, Carol is a more integral part of the group, and I just think that when you're putting people's lives at risk, how can you trust them?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% for sure. I think Rick will definitely be 100% behind Carol in this case, because even when they talked already, he was kind of more behind her. They were talking to Morgan as if, Morgan had kind of messed up, because the ones that he let go, well, he wouldn't have been able to stop them all anyway, but the ones that ran off almost did kill Rick. So, he had to actually kill them. So that was Morgan kind of doing that as well, too. Right? So I would think for sure Rick will definitely agree with Carol.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. Do you think in the second half premiere we will see what happened to Tobin, Heath, Spencer, and the rest of the people who weren't in the mid-season finale? Keep up the good work. You inspired me to start my YouTube channel. Ultimate Storms.
Cool.
Let's see. I mean, what do you say to this, Trev?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I read a comment. I don't know if it's true that Heath was like hurt in filming or something. Again, I don't know if that's true at all, but it doesn't give us reason for the others. We kind of saw Tobin quickly, but then after, we didn't see him after that. I think it was more just that they were trying to fit in a certain amount of stuff, and maybe they had filmed some other stuff, but maybe we'll have to wait until, we see the return of season 6 to see the other surviving people of Alexandria, including all these Tobin, Heath, Spencer. I think they would show us if they were going to kill one of them off, and that we're just kind of waiting to kind of see the rest. Yeah.
All right, let's see. We'll take this as our final question. As a matter of fact, I have a little bonus question here for Trev that I want to ask him at the end.
Okay.
But the next one is,
sounds good.
Hey, I have a question. Do you think the wolf actually intends to kill Denise? She is a doctor, and he knows that these guys pride themselves on taking what they need, and in this world, anyone with any kind of medical training would be useful. I know they claim to kill everyone, but they may have accepted some people in the group at some point to flesh out the numbers. Would love to hear your thoughts. By Maddie. Great question, and in my honest opinion, Trev, I just like to open up and saying I completely agree with this person, because if the wolf wanted to kill her, he could have, but at the same time, one thing weird happened is, and I watched this with my dad, he's like, he's never seen two people with guns give up to one guy with a knife, but, the funny thing is, I feel like the reason he took her in captivity is for two reasons. Obviously, he has a wound, and obviously he could use her for future uses. So he would have already... So basically, I'm saying, Trev, I think he would have killed her already if he felt that he could have. Because listen, Denise is weak.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think, just like you said, he's got this weird OCD where he wants to take everything of value, every last drop, that kind of deal. Like we heard him say in the season 5 finale with Morgan. He wants everything, but she's got a lot of value because she's a doctor. He's sick. He needs her. If he leaves, she won't be able to treat him, and he may die. But if he's able to take her out, of Alexandria and get her to come with him, then she could actually, help him, right? So she could tend to his wounds and that kind of thing. And yeah, I think that's a great insight from Maddie, because I hadn't thought of that right off the bat. But you're
Good
absolutely
point.
right. What do you think?
I mean, for my final question of the day, Trev, I have a question intended of you, since, it's our first video together, and I've always had a lot of questions for you from The Walking Dead. My question is, how intelligent do you think walkers are? And before you answer that, Trev, I've always had a lot of things I've noticed about The Walking Dead. There have been some cerebral elements of them. For example, in season 1, we saw a walker climbing a fence, and, one of my friends pointed out it's a little bit racist that they decided to make the black walker climb a fence. But also, Trev, there's also been, walkers who were turning doorknobs, like, Dwayne's mother, Jenny, right? What's her name? Jenny?
Right. I think so.
Yeah, Jenny was turning the doorknob. We also saw the walker bashing against the wall with a rock. And there was one scene, Trev, and it really this was the most cerebral I ever saw a walker. It was when Andrea was in the RV, and there was like a walker that came in, and then Dale gave her, like, I think a hammer to, like, smash his head. Right, a screwdriver.
Yeah.
If you go back and you watch that scene, Trev, I guarantee you will notice that that walker behaved extremely cerebral. He was just moving his head left and right like a human would. He searched around that RV the way a human would, not like a mindless zombie. It's like he was like, He walked up the RV. He was like walking around like curious. What's this here? What's this there? And that was the most cerebral I ever saw a walker. So with all of that said, Trev, and obviously factoring in that zombies have been decaying, my question to you, my friend, is how intelligent are walkers throughout the whole series?
That's a good question, man. Yeah, so the idea of smart zombies. So I think that was like a Frank Darabont thing, because he was the showrunner at that time when the series first got started, for the first about a season and a half, season 1, and then about halfway through, maybe like the first half, a little bit over the first half for season 2. And a lot of that stuff occurs, when he was kind of in charge, and that comes back to like the original. He's a big fan of
George Romero.
George Romero, and he had done quite a bit in the movies with kind of the idea of smart zombies. There's one, I think it's in Land of the Dead, where he uses like a butcher knife, so he's like a butcher zombie. It's pretty brutal. He'll use it to cut into wood and just use it for his environment around him. In addition, he's a zombie that carries around a cleaver, and he'll just go through wood or things like that. He'll cut through it, and then the others will be able to get through, like in a zombie horde. So it's pretty interesting. So it seems to me, because they kind of stop with that, even a new fresh zombie, because we have seen some fresh zombies through the series, right? But it was only early on that they actually did that. So I think a lot of that came from him. And I think after that, they kind of tried to act like that's not true, right? But if you take it all as canon, you kind of have to look at it like, okay, what makes the most sense for that universe? And based on the first couple of seasons, you'd have to go with, at the beginning, when walkers first turn and they first become zombies, they must have quite a bit of, intelligence to be able to do things like turn a doorknob, or even attempt to climb a ladder or climb a fence, whatever the case may be. And it's just something we haven't seen since then, which is unfortunate, because I think it's fun to see. I think it's interesting when you're not 100% sure that they're just mindless zombies, and that they're not going to try to climb up after you, or they're not going to try to open a door or kind of look around, like you said with the RV. That was the RV zombie. That's a great point, where he kind of is looking around. He's got the jaw thing going. And yeah, those are some awesome zombies. It kind of gives them an angle when they're a little bit smarter. You have a few here and they're a little bit more intelligent. I think that's interesting. I think it's a lot of fun. And I like the Romero movies for that, where they have a couple zombies here and there that are a little bit smarter than the rest. So I wish they do more of it, but that's my ideas. Mainly it was caused by the production and the showrunner at the time, I think.
Well, Trev, it's just funny. As you were explaining all of those great points, I actually remembered an even more cerebral thing that completely, diminishes everything else. One of the very first scenes we see in The Walking Dead, we see Summer, even though her name wasn't actually stated, Summer picking up a teddy bear.
Right, yeah, the teddy bear.
That is
girl,
extremely cerebral.
Yeah, you're right off the bat. So that is, because it's like she's got this attachment to this item, makes her feel comfortable, right? Like in real life, you have like a teddy bear or something. And as a zombie, she picks up the teddy bear. So you're not even sure, like, is it a zombie? Is it a real girl that's running around? Is Rick going to help her or something? And then we see pretty quickly little girl, and you can see she's a zombie, and she attacks him. So that was also one of the only children zombies we've ever seen in the show. We haven't had that many of them. There's
Sophia, her, and I can't think of any others. So
yeah, there's not many random ones out there either. There's very few. There's like only one incident in I think season 5 where Carol, there's like a little zombie at the door type deal. You can see her in kind of the pane in the glass. Yeah, but that's it. Like I can't think of almost any others from, just off the top of my head. So
I've always had a little theory similar to like Grand Theft Auto. If you're familiar with the game, it's kind of weird if you like show people killing kids. Even if they're zombies, it's awkward. But if I were to just close this video out, Trev, by just sharing my 2 cents, I feel like the writing is obviously different, as you mentioned. Darabont was a different director, but at the same time, I think that what we also have to factor in, Trev, is that there are still some fresh zombies, from survivors that have come around. And, if you look at Shane, I think Shane's a great example, because I don't think we've ever seen a person reanimate as quick as Shane, because Shane literally seemed like he died in like 2 minutes ago. And then he immediately reanimated, and it seemed like he was walking close towards Rick as if he kind of like acknowledged him. And I remember, what was his name? John Bernthal. He was saying that, he originally wanted to say Rick in a zombie voice, and I thought that would have really made the show interesting.
That would have been awesome. Yeah, I think they should have done that, actually. I think that would have made it even better.
That would have been great. I mean, it would have really added a twist to it.
Yeah, because you think about it, like their brain wouldn't decay that much right off the bat, so it'd be like it would make sense that he would do that right away if he just turned just real fast, like you said. So that's a great idea. I never thought about that, but that would have been really cool to see. Yeah, for sure. So.
Alrighty, guys. So that's basically been like my own Walking Dead Q&A. I'm really, curious to hear your thoughts. I haven't done a lot of Walking Dead on my channel. I've only done, one video on here, and I've done several videos with Duct Tape from Comic Corner. And, Duct Tape, Trev, and we all have a big video plan with a certain mystery character in the future. And please check out Trevschan2. He's my favorite YouTuber. I've been following him before I even made my Dragon Ball segments, and it's really an honor to have him, as a guest, and I look forward to making more videos with him in the future. So, Trev, you want to point out how they can find you or anything along those lines?
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. This has just been so much fun. It's just been a pleasure. I love your channel. I love your videos. So it's been awesome. Yeah, you can check out more of my Walking Dead videos, and me at YouTube, username Trevschan2. So TREVSCHAN2. I guess we'll put a link in the description.
And feel free, guys, to also ask him Dragon Ball questions, because he's pretty familiar with the series, and he also loves Dragon Ball. He's done some Dragon Ball videos himself, so Trev's an awesome guy, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Great. Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me, Qaaman.